Good morning. The Mature Simmer here. Early summer, year 71. And the most important thing we see, 66 degrees for soil temperature. We can plant our other two fields. So let's go ahead and head on over and get that done. So we've got 6 o'clock here on hilly Seneca. And we are good to go. Goodness gracious. Yeah, I use a steering wheel, but once I get moving, I tend to just fine-tune with the keyboard because the steering wheel gets a little too sensitive once we're moving along. You can see our coffee starting to spring up, which is also nice. Alright, let's see. This bulge here, I'm not sure if I have it. I think I'm alright. Guess we'll find out. Turn on the sower. Lower it. I don't know if it needs some time to turn on. I don't understand why it requires 2 presses, but anyway. Alright. So we are planting our cotton. I think I got the bulge. Alright, so if you remember from last time, I ended up plowing over the cotton I had planted a little bit early just because I wanted to basically what I'll call reset the field, which basically means change the field state so that the game doesn't think anything's planted, because at that point there isn't. Because otherwise I believe what would have happened is we had cotton in the ground, and that early cotton would have been planted prior to the ground temperature being appropriate, and I would have had a problem from the temperature standpoint. So this way we reset, and we should hopefully have no problem because of ground temperature. So I was trying to line up to that, but then I just realized, like, the plow has me out there, but that doesn't mean that, oh boy. Trying to figure out exactly where to steer to overlap. So sorry, the plow has me there, but I hadn't planted that far. I'm like, how did I not cross it with 2 passes? I obviously planted it with 2 passes, but yes, I did plow a little wide just to avoid missing a slight edge or something like that. So we actually hadn't planted that wide. So this morning, the goal is get the cotton in on this field, get the tobacco in on the next one, and perhaps get going on the oat harvest up at 98. But we'll see how I'm doing on time there, as far as if I can do that in this one window or not. I may find that I don't even finish planting in the time I have, but we'll see. Just gotta go ahead and line up at the edge of the field here, and once I do that, I think I'll go ahead and sign off from sitting here and chatting with you and go into time lapse and get these done. There we go. Lower the cedar And we'll head on out. See you on the other side. Oh, I'm so flustered. What I will do is go and plant and at least make some progress, because that was what I was coming up here for, was to get some seed. So anyway, before I have another problem, let me connect my hoses. Otherwise I'll get down to the field and be like, I can't empty the seeds, it's broken. No, I'm just the definition of a fool today. So, I don't know that this is as much an FSN thing as it is an FS thing, but either way, it's happening on an FSN server with FS, so it is some combination of those letters. And I was initially like, oh, I'll just get the seed and I'll worry about cleaning up the seed later. I guess I could have done that, you know, worried that something like this would happen, but maybe it's entertaining for you. And once again, we'll see what I decide to do. Maybe I'll just make this like a blooper reel of its own, because at this point this is probably going to turn into like 15 minutes, and I don't know, guess I'll see how it works. But certainly want to let him know I appreciate the assistance, because Otherwise, all I'd really be able to do is kind of stomp around, and you can't really stomp effectively with the FS avatars, so it would just me be kind of ranting with my voice, and probably less fun than watching all this go down. So, whatever you're doing, I'm hoping, if nothing else, let's see. I think I'm close enough that now I can play with the arm. Oops. I think it was doing it. There we go. Alright. So the good news is at least we'll get this done, because that will certainly be enough seed. Let's head on into the tobacco and fire this thing up. Lower it down. Well, it was lowered. Alright, I believe. Yep, okay, it's counting down. So if nothing else, we can make a little bit more progress on the rows here. Holy moly. This is like not what I was expecting my morning to go like in FSN today. Let me pop this off here. I'm gonna go check something. I'm worried I'm not recording again. Good news is I am, because yeah, there'd be no way to recreate that joy. Well, we don't have too many rows here. It's going to take him a good... I don't think we'll finish before we have to go back and help out. I'm certainly not going to let him, even though I might only be able to spectate, I'm certainly not going to let him just dig around on his own and then go from there. And not even sure this will work, but I just feel bad because, yeah, he didn't... I guess he sold the belts off that he had. He's saying he was going to get replacements anyway, but not entirely sure he was planning on doing that right now. But I just feel bad because I'm wasting his time. You know, it's one thing to waste my own time, but now this has turned into way more of a rat's nest for him as well, since he's offering generously to help me out here. And just like me, just like I noted, you know, I felt pretty comfortable with the time I've got this morning before I have to pop off and do some work, that I'd get the planting done at least, and maybe even some of the oat harvest. I think it would have been very optimistic to be able to get both done. But now I'm in jeopardy, I think, of not even being able to finish the plant harvest, and the last thing I want to do is leave him on the server with this. I guess it's earlier than I thought. Still, I just looked at a clock. So there might still be some hope, but either way, this is time none of us can get back, and part of the joy of why we choose to play the reality of FSN is, again, this is a problem similar to, as I talked about, you know, when we have equipment that runs off, someone ends up, you know, dumping a truck in the ditch. We had, for example, if you recall the contracts that I had put up this winter for canola, another farmer had a soy contract that he had sold through a broker, and whoever came and filled those had run the truck way down into a ravine. So we've got some pictures in the server Discord of those guys trying to fish that out of the ravine, the FSN truck that the contractor had ditched, which is not abnormal. You know, it was something I was actually going to talk about at the end of this video, but since we've got time now, and I'm not time-lapsing because I'm lamenting out loud, this is as good a time as any, but, you know, this stream's not that big, but it's still enough of an angle that you get the right piece of equipment in there. You know, it can take you an hour to figure out how to get it out. Just trying things, moving back and forth, so forth and so on. And this is that same thing where in a single player game you might be like, well, you know, it's been 10 minutes, I'll go ahead and just exit and restart from my save, and then I won't have the seed dumped on the ground and I can try something else. We don't have that option here in FSN. Like, that seed is there, and so part of what I was discussing as well, which you may or may not have seen in the chat I was having with Swede, was this, it falls into the potential server performance issue, where just like leaving swaths laying on the ground take a performance hit, it's just a different version of a swath. I mean, it's one thing to kind of do what I did, which was I left it for a day because, you know, I knew when I dumped it, oh yeah, I'll just pick it up because I'm going to need seed here today. And so I knew it wasn't going to be long term. But now that I've got this wedged in my silo grate, you know, now suddenly if I can't pick it up, it's there perpetually on the server, which is a problem. And you know, the alternative that I'm going to have at the end, if we ultimately can't figure out how to pick it up, is I'll certainly report a ticket to operations, because I think they'll want to come in and clean it up. You know, on the back end, I'm sure there's a way for them to do it. And, you know, get that potential performance issue off the server. But, you know, at minimum, I'll certainly report it if we can't pick it up, so that operations can weigh in and say, no, it's not a problem, just leave it. Or, yeah, we'll get in and figure it out. But once again, it just creates another problem for people that don't need my problems, especially when, in the end, my plan may have worked if I had just thought ahead and realized, the silo is literally got no room for even a liter. let me empty some of that into the truck first and then dump this off the ground. So yeah, so many other ways that could have potentially gone differently, in that if I had grabbed the seed, finished this field, once again, we would have had enough room. If I had at least realized it before I scooped it, emptied it into the truck, you know, either way, if something needed to empty into the truck first, my guess is there was no problem with me taking the skid steer and dumping, and it accepting it. I think it was, you know, it's because it's full. It's not because of something more complex like, oh, it's his skid steer. Because obviously it's his truck, and he dumped seed into the silo from his truck once I made room. So, but just as in real life, sometimes we kind of forget order of operations, and clearly it hadn't occurred to me that I had a full silo until in the midst of the conversation, I'm like, oh my god. And you all saw that, so I guess I don't have to rehash that. I'm really surprised he's not back. I'm half wondering if he is, and he's being nice and not letting me know, and because he knows I'm under pressure to finish planting here, but once again, I don't want to leave him hanging, so we're close enough now that it's another couple minutes. I'll just finish this, and obviously then I'm heading back over, so. But before I go clean up my planter here, I'm gonna at least pop back up and make sure he's not, or at least look at the map, I guess. I don't have to pop back up. You can see where he's physically at by looking at the map. So normally I think a little clearer with all these, but at least I save myself the trip of, oh, I'll drive up, or you know, pop back up to my Massey Ferguson that or the small case, I don't even know what it is. I don't know that it's a Massey, I don't remember, but my other tractor that's sitting up at 97 was my thought. But I'm like, no, I don't even need to do that. I can just check on the map and see where he's at. But anyway, let me get this last piece of tobacco planted. Alright, field planted. Fold this up. Let's look at the map in the interim. Where is he? That's me. Oh, he is back there. Okay. Alright. So I'm going to go ahead and get this put away because we're done planting for the season. So, kind of back to deja vu where we were at the start of this series, where I was planting these fields, and now I'm going to take this back and do the repairs, clean it up, put it away, and let it sit until I need it again. But I really don't know how much time that took. I'm going to say it was well over half an hour. So, like I said, yeah, I'm sure I'm just going to make this its own video because A, it's easier for people to find it and call it out and enjoy it on its own when they want. And there's no point in prolonging what will be an otherwise lengthy video, as anything on FSN is. Just to include the idiot example in the middle. So that's the decision I'll make. That's what I'll go with. Alright, we'll do this. Whoops. I hit P, not R. Wrong button. I'll get everything cleaned up. Alright, looks like gas is done. I suppose I can turn on the interface against $272 in fuel. I was going to say, at least you'll be able to see the costs. Yeah, we're kind of at the point now, I guess we hadn't talked specifically finances. You can see I'm down to $318,000, where before we were over $600,000. That's literally all supplies and just basically refilling those silos. I'm trying to recall if there was perhaps something else I did, but no, I didn't buy any equipment that I'm aware of. Yeah, I'm beginning to wonder. It just seems like a lot for supplies, but again, fertilizer's expensive, and so I'm pretty sure it is just that. Alright, so 300 to repair that, 908 to repair the tractor. So that is now in great shape. Now, as long as I can avoid destroying my field. Once again, it should be low enough growth that I could drive on it without any damage, but I'm just not going to tempt fate because clearly this is not my day. And it's the right thing to do anyway. I mean, as a farmer, I'm sure they're not just randomly driving all over the fields. Just because they can. I'm sure they're staying off of things to avoid any potential damage. So yeah, now I do really feel bad because he ended up leaving, which probably means he's out of time. And he used maybe even more time than he was planning to be on the server to help my sorry butt out. Solving a problem that honestly didn't need to be a problem if I had been a little... Oh, great, yeah. Let's just run equipment up on other equipment. Wow. Like I said, this is just not my day. Now, granted, this is tight, and I think, you know, when I put it in here, this was the first thing in here, and then I parked everything else around it. So it's not like I'm just having a really bad job parking it. It's definitely tight, because I think I pulled forward with everything else. Actually, that's all I need for that. Trying to figure out these lines here. I don't know if it's just a map anomaly or if somehow, because I don't know if you noticed in the time lapse, I was trying to figure that out. I kind of replanted part of the headland that looked all messed up. It didn't change, so clearly there's nothing I'm going to be able to do to fix it. But anyway, so at this point, to save some time, although, well, no, I'll just do what I need to do. I'm going to run this up to 97, 98, and I'll just kind of share as I go some of my thoughts on what was happening during the time lapse. So one of the things, again, because it's time lapse, and at this point, to keep the videos relatively short, I'm running it quite fast, so things probably happen in a second or a couple seconds that might take 10 or 20 seconds on in the real-time portion. But you may have noticed at the south end of the field, I think it's 86 is the one closest to the road, the one with cotton. I actually ran into the field south of me and planted, but that again was not me losing concentration or not paying attention. The server lagged, and I was trying to turn off and stop, and obviously before I could, it had already gotten that far in while the server appeared frozen, it had already processed that far. And so when I finally was able to stop and turn it off, I had already drifted into the field a bit. So yeah, he's got some stuff here. Yeah, I don't know if he has two crops now. I'm curious. Is this a separate crop, or is this something he's mowing? Oh yeah, alright, so he's got rye on the field. So yeah, he's really just been doing grass work for years, so I thought that's what he's doing, but no, it looks like he actually planted some crop this year, so that'll be great for him. He did talk about somewhere along the road here there's some giant grass pile from the trees that he thinks is a glitch. You know, maybe I'll take a look. We'll go out the other way. Actually, no. We won't go out the other way because we're harvesting the field here, so I don't have to go down by me. Or by 30. I was going to say we'll drive out the other way. Alright, so at this point I took these seeds out of the silo. They'll fit back in the silo. But I want to empty this so that it's ready, because likely I'm going to need something other than seeds next time. And once again, even if it didn't fit, at least, you know, dumping like this, I'd have the same issue that caused me to dump on the ground. This is the Seed Express would just stop emptying once it was full. It wouldn't suddenly start piling it up. Just obviously a bucket from a skid steer doesn't work that way. I don't think it's, yeah, it won't let me disconnect until I disconnect the hoses. Although I do think I could have disconnected with shutting the engine off, but this way at least I can separate it. No, actually I do need to take the truck down. So yeah, we'll go out the other way, because I need to bring the trailer up to empty my combine into, because trying to drive the combine over to empty it makes no sense. I was going to say, there's the grass pile, but no, that's my dumb grass pile from having the belt on. And I suppose that one I can claim, like I hadn't turned it on, I just had jumped into it and wasn't looking, but once again, it was just not paying attention. So yeah, I don't know. I guess he's got some in the trees over there that's pretty large. Maybe that's what he meant. I don't know. So I'm not sure what pile he was referring to. I'll clean up the interface for you. So yeah, going back to what was happening during the time lapse. So yeah, the lag basically caused me to overrun. I'm going to go ahead and take my plow over and clean up that field and basically plow over that little piece that I overran just to keep it clean. You know, again, whether that makes it on video or not, I don't know that it will. It's not like it's anything compelling, but you'll know that I'll do that. And then you know, I got stuck as I was turning at the end. I had to fold up the planter, trying to run the headlands along the trees there. But yeah, overall, there were a few other things, but I didn't want to jump out of the time lapse and record them at that point, so figured I'd remember them. But part of being the mature simmer is memory's not what it used to be, and sometimes I forget what I was going to say. So hopefully that's an endearing part of the series for you guys, is how I jump around from one thing to the other, kind of as my stream of consciousness goes along. If not, let me know in the comments, and I'll see what I can do about it. Alright, but no, this is why we needed to drive down here, is I wanted to get this. At this point, I'll leave it, grab the harvester, run that up, and get that set up, and once we fill, then we'll worry about it, because we may find, depending on the yield, we may find that we don't need the truck, but at a minimum, I think the EV wasn't on. I think that was left over from the last time this was driven, was when one of the other FMs was going to help me with the harvest, and they had misunderstood that I said coffee instead of cotton, and had driven that over to the field. A lot of people don't like EV, so they turn it off. So yeah, I was trying to switch directions the way I normally do, and it wasn't working. So now at this point, I'm half resigning myself to the fact, given how today has gone, that my other concern that's lingering in the back of my mind is the field moisture still at 4%. And one of the other things I did check, so see, eventually sometimes I remember what I was going to talk about just in the course of talking. So yes, one of the other things I did check when I was in time-lapse was the seasons menu, to take a look at when we were getting rain, because I knew when I had looked at the forecast, when I had decided to put the coffee in the ground, even though it was 4%, that basically the next day we were getting some rain. The problem we have is, initially in the forecast yesterday, it was forecast about 1 inch of rain at the end of the day today. That has now dropped to 1/2 inch. And I'm just concerned it's going to drop to no rain at all. And then I think it was like 2 or 3 days before we got more rain. So I'm beginning to seriously be concerned about, am I going to experience my first crop issues with drought? Because the other thing I was checking was the resistance menu of seasons, which shows you the cold resistance, the frost resistance, and then the, so I'll pop that up, the frost resistance and the drought resistance. And both, coffee, both in seed and young, for drought is not that great. So, you can see it's low and medium, and cotton and tobacco are the same. I had checked that because, once again, I'm planting those today in 4% soil, and just worried that we had an issue. So the way today's gone, maybe all these fields will die on me, and I'm going to have literally nothing this year, but I hope not, but we'll see. It's part of why we play, and part of what, again, real farmers deal with, and what Farming Simulator tries to mimic in this type of environment. So I'm heading up to the entrance to 98 because, once again, I've got crop now in the field. I don't want to be driving over it, where normally if I have a blank field or an empty field that I've just harvested, that's fine, but that is not the case today. So I am going to likely, looks like I've got room on the left side where there isn't a ditch, although it's kind of getting to be one here, so I'm probably going to stop here. And I'll just hook up my header here. So once again, stuff I love with the Draper is that is all I do, and I'm not going to be then leaving a trailer in the middle of the road. So I can do this and be kind to my community and not blocking the road while I'm harvesting. because otherwise I'd have the situation of, at minimum, I'd do this, I'd grab my header off the trailer, and then I'd move the harvester with the header back into position and somehow move the trailer, but then with the header I'd likely have a problem with the tree line and so forth. So alright, so we need to hook the cables up so that we can fold the wheels. And I'll get the PTO connected so we can actually use the header. Alright. Yay, I switched correctly. Now the only potential problem we're going to have is if I can't get through the opening with my header, but I'm pretty sure this is big enough here. Oh yeah,